Let's get more perspective on the 2020-2022 MTEF as a World Bank consultant, Okudili Ikejiani, joins us from our Abuja studios. Welcome to the program. And in Lagos, the Director General of Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, NESIMA, Ambassador Ayola Olukanmi, joins us as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Let's go perhaps to our guest in Abuja. And I'd just like to know first what your view is of Nigeria's economy. I mean, following recession in 2017, would you say we are on the path of growth?
Is it me? Okay. Thank you for having me. I think I looked at the 2018 revenue budget performance, and seems like we came short by almost 45% revenue. Well, there has been steady growth, no doubt about it, for the past 9 quarters. But I think that we still have to do more, bearing in mind that the MTF and the FSP are underpinned by the ERGP, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, that is underpinning this exercise. And there are 60 strategies outlined in that plan to drive some of these things. 60 strategies. And then there are also activities lined up. We should focus on those and see how we can do to get out of this hole, you know, because the plan looks good, but I think its implementation still is lagging far behind. Thank you.
All right, let's come to you here in Lagos. The Senate approved the MTEF and FSP, raising government's expenditures estimates, another additional 729 billion naira. What's your take on that?
Well, thank you for having me. This is a reflection of the fact that we need to do more work in certain areas. If you look at the MTIF itself, it's talking about the issues of strategic revenue growth initiative. This is one of the things that will be done under the medium-term expenditure framework itself. So that means that practical action will have to be taken in terms of increasing the people as far as the tax net itself is concerned, and also a few other areas, especially you're looking at the areas like the mining sector, the creativity industry. But beyond that is also the question and issues of how to truly empower the private sector to be able to make significant contributions. And that is one of the focus of us in the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. And this was what we presented to the president recently when we had cause to visit the villa, to really, really help the private sector to live up to expectation and make its own contributions.
Mr. Ikejiani, when you look at some of the variables, what was agreed, the $57 per barrel crude oil benchmark for the fiscal year 2020, and also approving 305 naira to the dollar, and then the adopted 2.18 million barrels per day. What does that tell you about how you think the budget 2020 will be carried out?
Well, already the budget is at risk. As of yesterday, it's $58 per barrel. And then based on historical information, 2018, we were able to achieve only 1.86 million barrels per day. Then the exchange rate, I believe, you still have that gap between what the official rate is and then what the ordinary Nigerians go through. So, frankly, I think that we have to try and be realistic with some of the benchmarks and assumptions being made. I believe that the finance ministry did very well by having it at 55. Now, increasing it to 57, and as of yesterday, the crude oil is 58, already put the whole thing at risk. So, I don't know. I just think that increasing the budget will also lead to more inflation. Even though they have been trying to control the inflation, probably will lead to more inflation and more budget deficits. That's all I can see.
All right. Now, the World Bank Group president said in a June 2019 Global Economic Prospects report that stronger economic growth is essential to reducing poverty and improving the living standards. Also went ahead to talk about how current economies in developing countries remains weak, heightened debt levels, subdued investment growth, and developing economies holding countries back from achieving their potential. Ambassador Olukanmi, you've heard the Senate on the floor talking about cutting the cost of governance and worried about the rising debt profile.
Well, my first comment will be the remarks of the late Mario Cuomo, who says that you govern in prose. I mean, you govern in poetry, but you campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. That means the nitty-gritty aspect of it. It's very interesting, the issue which has been raised on the floor of the Senate in terms of the cost of governance. We need to look at that, because the question is that the amount of money which we spend, National Assembly and other, it's so much we need to have a rethink as far as that is concerned. Maybe we need to cut down in terms of that particular area. Then secondly, the other aspect of it is also the question of implementation. And that's one of the things which in NACIMA, in the private sector, we are looking at the whole question of inclusive growth and development. And that's why we're happy that the MTEFM, I have here in front of me, the concluding part says that we welcome your inputs to the 2020-2022 MTEFM. The full document will be available shortly on the website, and we welcome comments on that. This is a very good development in terms of opening up for debate, because discussions and debate will continue. Even the benchmark which we talked about, what happens if it falls? How do we deal with it? So that is why we're saying that at the end of the day, the private sector must be, and also the respective states, that there are a lot of opportunities for internally generated revenue in the private. I serve as High Commissioner in Australia, and I saw the potentials of the mining sector. A state is earning about $60 billion, Western Australia. And Kogi has resources, Kaduna, all the mining state. What is happening in that? All of this should be factored into the implementation of the MTF so that the states themselves can rise up to the challenges.
Finally, I think we'll wrap up this discussion with you, Mr. Ikejiani, and that is the President, October 1, talked about how we're making gains in diversification, especially the agricultural sector. If we turn our attention to diversification, do you think we're really making progress that's fast enough for our population and for our economic growth?
Very, very slow. And we're making progress, but it is very, very slow. I think we're lagging behind in terms of institutional reforms that has been laid out. Even in the ERGP, there are a lot of activities there that will free up this economy and grow it. In the transport sector, for example, they are supposed to have create a federal roads authority and then set up a road fund to be able to maintain most of the road infrastructure in Nigeria. If you have noticed, the network in this country is almost gone. And something has to be done drastically to turn this tide. Now, talking about the PPP, you have the ICRC and the BPE driving it. There are conflicts in their laws. These things need to be strengthened out so that there's a lot of opportunities with the PPP, and it is not moving well at all. So I suggest that we look into these areas, and this will help to grow the economy.
All right, we'd like to thank you.
As fast as they have planned it. That's what I have to say.
We appreciate your time. World Bank consultant, Mr. Okudili Ikejiani. Thank you for joining us from Abuja.